Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the final word with Matty B here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. With your boy Matty B on the call, coming at you a little bit late. That's what happens when you follow post-game shows. You're at the mercy and the will of those shows, and you're at the mercy and the will of those games. But that's okay. Better late than never. We got you. I'm here, and you have arrived at your final destination or your final stop of your Philadelphia sports day. And I am glad to once again be the conductor of that train, or the driver of that bus, or whatever you want to call me. You can call me. So welcome in. We got some decent things to talk about. The show title for tonight is Game 11. Is it a crossroads of a season? Can an 11th game of 162 games be a crossroads? It definitely sounds like it is if you listen to sports talk radio in this town and other shows around this town, talking like the season is hanging on hanging by a string, 11 games in. And the Phillies answered the bell tonight, 4-3. A gutsy win, not a pretty win, not a sexy win. A lot of issues still, but they found a way with some clutch hitting and some clutch pitching. And we'll continue the conversation that Mike Lauro started on the Fighting's Final a little bit earlier. We'll continue that conversation. We also had a hockey team win tonight. The Flyers continue to defy the odds and for some odd reason want to win when winning doesn't mean anything anymore. As a matter of fact, losing is winning for the Flyers these days, but they went on an offensive explosion against the underperforming, what happened to you this year, New York Rangers, winning tonight 8-5 at the Garden. We'll get into that. We're also going to talk more about the Crossroads stuff and kind of give we talked Phillies report card last week. We're not going to give a report card, but I do want to check in on a few areas that were of concern heading into the season and continue to still be of concern. We have our Of the Night segment. We have your card review, and we have the new segment that we started last night, MattyB's all-time favorite MLB jerseys. And we're going to talk about the AL Central tonight. So, and of course, your day in Philadelphia sports history, if I have not already said that. So strap on, strap in, strap it up, and let us begin. Keep your heads, hands, and feet inside the car at all times, and let's get rolling. But before I do, I want to remind everybody out there that give us a like, a follow, a subscribe, a share, a thumbs up, a bell ring, all those great things that you can do to help us out as we grow this very small network into something bigger and better. And a little programming note. Tomorrow, the Phillies will go for the series win against the Braves, and Sal G will be taking you through that with the Fighting's Final, and I, of course, will follow him after that. Now, again, that's the problem of doing a late night show, especially during baseball season. My schedule is in flux as well as everyone else's, but that's okay. Then on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. until May 4th, the wraparound with Pat Bernard, as he will give you his little, whatever he does. He does so well, but be sure to be listening to Pat. Then we got the PNEM and the AM show coming at you starting on May 4th, as they will return to be your Sunday morning I guess answer to church. I don't really want to say that, but and then tomorrow night and every Thursday night at 9, the Attacking Third with Steve and Pat, as they will be back tomorrow talking Union soccer and everything MLS, and of course me, your boy Matty B, with the final word. So let us start. A couple of things. Barbara chimes in, says, "I'm here, but I'm not." No, I'm not. Sorry, Barbara. We will catch each other one of these days, Barbara. 10 o'clock, Barbara. Remember that. 10 o'clock. Listen, just look at the YouTube thing. I keep a pretty good schedules. I keep them up to date. I keep them current. I update them applicably and on time. So, but 10 o'clock is when this show normally starts, but we're going to be later because of post-game obligations and games running late and all that, especially in Atlanta. And we're going to get into that in a second. And Joe, how you doing? All right. So let's start with our night or your day in Philadelphia sports history, April the 9th, and we go back to the ripe year of 1913. Again, I want to preference before I get into the moment. This wasn't firsthand. I wasn't like writing this down as it was occurring. All right. I was not present in 1913 to see this, but the Phillies actually were part of not only their own history. This was not only a day in Philadelphia sports history, but it was a day in Brooklyn Dodger history, as the Phillies played the very first ever game at iconic Ebbets Field in Brooklyn against the Dodgers. It was in and they lost and they actually won 1-0. So On this day in 1913, I didn't know Ebbets Field was around that long, but 1913, the Phillies played the Dodgers for the first time ever at Ebbets Field. The inaugural game at Ebbets Field, the first game ever there, was played between the Phillies and Dodgers in 1913, and your fighting Phillies won 1-0. So there you go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history, brought to you by the great folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Okay, 4-3 Phillies with the win. And let's kind of recap a little bit of what I saw from this thing. And there's definitely some things I want to talk about. Taijuan Walker, I guess, is on top of everyone's mind. Was it a great start? No. Was it an $8 million a year start? No, it wasn't. But was it better than last year? Yes. Was it serviceable? Yes. Was it something that you can kind of hang your hat on, especially down at that part of the rotation? Absolutely. Little labored, though. I mean, he only lasted 4.5 innings, gave up 94 pitches, 3 walks, struck out 5, and gave up 5 hits. I mean, he was giving up the hits, but he was getting himself out of it. But, as these games seem to, kind of drag on, and as these games develop and the pitch count goes up higher, and you're never going to sell me on 95 pitches through 4.5 innings is effective. It's not effective. It's labored. Those hits will start turning into runs. And so I know pulling Taijuan Walker to go to the Phillies bullpen in the 5th inning, or in the 4th inning at this case, was not the popular decision based on what the problems that the bullpen is having. And we're going to get into the bullpen in a little bit. But Walker, effective, and I'll take it. I'll definitely take it in the state that the rotation is in right now. So an effective performance for Walker does not figure in the win. He does not figure in the win. Alvarado actually gets the win in this game, but an effective start for Taijuan Walker, and that's number 2 in the books. Joe says, great Phillies win. Yeah, I mean, all the wins are great, Joe, right? And kind of fitting in with the theme of a Crossroads game. I know I didn't really sense a playoff vibe of this game, but this game to me did have a Crossroads feel to it. If the Phillies were to find their way to lose that game, 7-4, I understand we're not going to get all upset and start, getting, well, we are, but the season's definitely not over at 7-4. But the way they lost that game yesterday, coming back tonight and playing the Braves with Walker on the mound, there was a lot of things could have went wrong here, and definitely things could have went wrong. And 7-4 tomorrow in what should be a pitcher's duel between Luzardo and Schwallenbach. Maybe the Phillies don't come out of here with a win at all in this series. Now they put themselves in a position to win the series, head on to St. Louis. And based on some of the vibes that the Phillies have been giving off through the first 10 games heading into tonight, I thought a win tonight, a character win, was definitely in order, and they got one. Harper with the big-time home run late, clutch, absolutely clutch. Trey Turner double clutching it in the 9th with a go-ahead shot. I mean, this is what good teams do, and they find a way to win these types of games. And yeah, there's plenty to be critical about, and we will be critical about that. But I thought in a lot of ways, this was a win that a team that has a championship breed to them needs to win, and they found a way. Alec Boehm continues to mystify since what happened in the All-Star. So I was thinking about this, and didn't the same thing happen to Dominic Brown when he made it to the All-Star game in the home run derby? Didn't the same thing happen to him? Never was the same after that. Alec Boehm has not been the same since the home run derby. And we were talking about that heading into that last year, like, oh no. I mean, and I think we were tongue in cheek in the whole Dominic Brown thing too. The swing is going to get screwed up. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, and I don't really buy into that the home run derby screwed up his swing for the rest of his career. But I mean, he looks lost. He had another defensive blunder in the tonight that thankfully didn't come back and hurt him. He just looks lost. And one of the problem areas of this team heading into the offseason was Alec Boehm in third base, was not addressed. And the plan obviously was to stick with Boehm. That obviously doesn't seem to be the right plan right now, as he has not he's gotten worse, and the body language is now starting to get a little bit obvious and telling. He's in his own head. He's not. He's up there thinking about it too much. Everything about Alec Boehm's game right now is off. And yeah, Joe Hale mentions it right here. Boehm needs to sit tomorrow, absolutely, but he won't. I mean, if Rob Thompson is any indication on this, Nick Castellanos was out there chopping down trees last year and didn't get a day off. I guarantee you, Joe, Boehm won't sit. He won't sit. And I don't even know if they'll slide him down in the lineup. And I know that's the other thing people are calling for is they get pushed down to 7 or 8 in that lineup. I don't even think that's going to happen. But something's got to be done. And you got to look at it right now at face value that Dombrowski failed in addressing the Boehm problem this offseason by not trading him. And we talked about it on this program through the winter. What were the mental effects on Alec Boehm after going through the season that he had at the end of last year? Then his name swirling around every trade that was under the sun was involving Alec Boehm. I mean, I was reading stuff that was so goddamn visceral that said it's not a matter of when or if they trade Boehm. It's a matter of when. I mean, that's what everyone was saying. And you know that stuff creeped back to him. He's reading it. He's hearing it. The admission of the manager himself that they were taking calls on him. Did Dave Dombrowski screw this thing up? Has he left us a problem at third base? And even more importantly, a problem at the top of the Phillies lineup? Because I know sliding him down for his own good might be what is in need here. But who are you pushing up into the upper spot of the lineup? You know, Alec Boehm, I guess on a really good team, Alec Boehm is nothing more than a 7th hitter anyway. I mean, even when he's on, he's nothing more than a 7 guy on a really good, like a Dodgers. If Alec Boehm was hitting on all cylinders and playing for the Dodgers, he'd be batting 7th in their lineup. But on this team with an imbalanced lineup, he's up top in the top part of the lineup. But even if we slide him down, who are we sliding up? So there's a domino effect here. And I get it, man. I get the frustration, but Dave Dombrowski failed to address this part of the team in the offseason. And now it's too late to do anything about it. So really frustrating watching him go about his daily business. Harper and Turner stepped it up late. Yeah, I said this too, right? Heading into the season, I don't want Bryce Harper to go 4 for 4. I really don't, but I need to, if he goes 1 for 4, it's fine. Just as long as that one is a late hit, you know, a similar situation like tonight. So yeah, hats off to Turner and Harper. You know, I'm not the biggest Bryce Harper guy at all, but you got to give it when it needs to be given. And tonight he took care of it, and it came up clutch for the Phillies. And Turner came up, as I said, double clutch late in the 9th inning. Love the hustle. Yeah, you know, the whole thing, Joe, during that play at second base where he was able to go from second and score, that was an amazing play by him. Now, that's fundamental baseball, right? There's 2 outs, situationally aware of what's happening in the game. 2 outs, he's on second, ball's hit on the ground. I mean, you're running on contact. They teach you at Little League. With 2 outs, no matter where you are on the base pads, as soon as you hear the crack of the bat, you go and just keep your head up and just run. And that's what Kepler did. And he found his way, you know, into a scoring position. So heads up play there by Max Kepler. Absolutely agree with you. 100%. And oh, look who's here. Barbara, thank you. You found me. Welcome, Barbara. It's been a while. Where have you been? I love Trey Turner. I never get down on him. I'm not going to say I don't get down on him, but, you know, definitely came up double clutch tonight as the Phillies won 4-3. Now let's get into the other aspects of this game. We kind of addressed a little bit the offense. Struggles of Alec Boehm, struggles of Brandon Marsh. And is this thing on? I want to make sure you guys hear me here. Brandon Marsh. Okay, and this leads me to point number 2 of the problems with this team heading into the season. What was the center field plan? The platooning of Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas was not one of the plans that I thought was viable. Again, what was seen last year when they were doing that made you think that would work this year? And right now we have 2 backup center fielders. We have 2 bench players basically one of them gets to start every night because of the platoon role. And that is becoming increasingly frustrating. Now, could the plan have been Justin Crawford? Could the plan have been getting Crawford up here at the end of April or early May, depending on how he did in Lehigh Valley? But that was an awful risk, and roll the dice on that, not knowing how he would react to AAA hitting, because he'd never been to AAA. Didn't know that that's where he was going to start the season, but that's where he's at. And obviously, if center field continues to deteriorate, and if Brandon Marsh continues to do what he's doing, which is absolutely nothing, then you got to make a move here, and Justin Crawford's got to come up. There's just no other way around that. I don't want to hear about putting Sosa in center field or putting Kepler in center and putting Sosa in left. No, I don't want to hear that. You bring up Crawford and you send down Rojas, or you send down Marsh, or you DFA Marsh, whatever. Because I don't want to see or hear any more about this platoon nonsense. The plan, again, for center field, which was an obvious problem heading into the season, was not addressed. And now we're stuck in a situation, but it might be actually a good situation when it works itself out. Justin Crawford is hitting amazingly down in Lehigh Valley. I think he's batting like 353 to start the season. They're going to want to see if this thing lasts a little bit. But if this continues to be the way the Phillies center field situation is, it's not a question of when or if. It's a question of when Crawford comes. And because I don't see any other way. I'm not comfortable with Kepler in center and Sosa in left. We're not doing that. But Marsh has been an absolute disaster. But once again, it's not like this kind of came out of nowhere. It's not like this came out of nowhere. Marsh was struggling last year, but nothing was done. So, Dombrowski, where you been, man? What's going on with third base and center field that these problems were not addressed when we knew there were problems? So, yeah. Bo Marsh, and then that protected child Stott. Actually, Stott's the least of my problems right now, Barbara. Stott was 2 for 4 tonight. I'll give him some credit there. You know, I gotta pull some positivity out of those three. But Bowman Marsh are definitely my patience has run out on both of them. Absolutely both of them. Joe House says Justin Crawford is closer and closer. Yeah, we got to wait and see if this sort of can be what it is. You know what I mean? We got to wait and see if he's gotten off to a really good start, but we got to see some consistency from him down at AAA, because the Phillies got to know that you can handle major league like pitching on a consistent basis. So I think in a very minimal period of time, a month from today, early mid-May, if he continues to hit this way, you're really going to have to make a decision about what you're going to do with him, because sitting him down in AAA is not. He's a former first-round pick. I mean, he's brought here to do what he's got to do, and I don't think you can kind of turn a blind eye to it anymore, especially with the problems we're having offensively in center field. Why did people get on Sosa for Rojas? I didn't see that, Barbara. I did. Well, let's not say I didn't see that. I heard a little bit about that. Sosa had nothing to do with that play. That was all Rojas. Absolutely nothing to do with Sosa. That wasn't his play to make. That was Rojas's play all the way. I was completely on Rojas about that, but that had nothing to do with Sosa. But you're right. And I did see a little bit of that. And that's ignorance. People don't know what they're talking about. If Crawford gets called up, he can bat where Bohm is. No, you bat him ninth. That's where you bat Crawford ninth. Joe, come on, let's pump the brakes here. I get it. He's a major leaguer, first round pick. Got to bring him up, but let's not completely throw him into the fire. Let's push him down in the lineup. He's got speed. He can leg balls out. He can flip that lineup back over again. And especially if Schwarber's batting first, or if Schwarber's leading off, you got a guy on base in front of Schwarber. So I'm not prepared to start tinkering with lineups and sticking him in 6 or 7. No, he goes down in the 9 hole until otherwise. I mean, in the future, he's the prototypical leadoff guy for this team. But right now, you bring him up midseason, you put him down at the 9 hole just to kind of protect him a little bit. Hoppy hit a home run in 4 straight games. You better be careful, Barbara. Big Al might hear you and come in here and throw a butterfly net over you. You can't talk about Logan O'Hoppy. And it's funny now, Barbara, because we joke about this, as you know, on this show. And Al's the biggest. You gotta play to pay, or pay to play, whatever the hell he says. But he doesn't like me talking about bringing up the O'Hoppy thing. But we talk about retrading that or redoing that trade. The funny thing about it, Anaheim wouldn't take Marsh back. They wouldn't. I mean, and that's another problem, is I don't know what you're going to do with Marsh. You're not going to get any value for him. You're going to DFA him, maybe. And if he clears waivers, maybe he takes a minor league assignment. I don't know. I think he's out of options, honestly. Or maybe, I don't know. I got to look into it. But you're not going to get absolutely anything from Marsh. And at this point, and as every day goes by, and every frustrating plate appearance goes by, and every kickball in the infield goes by, Bohm's value, whatever might be left on that, is continuously sinking to the floor. So, Dombrowski screwed this up, man. He really did. Obviously the trade for Marsh was terrible. And, I'm not blaming him for Bohm, but I am blaming him for not trading Bohm last offseason, right? And maybe you don't get as much as you could for him last offseason, but right now, at this particular moment in time, whatever they were offering you for Bohm in the offseason is not even on the table anymore. So that I am definitely going to blame Dombrowski. Hosking is hitting 160 or probably on the White Sox next year. I always thought him as of course, yeah. Is he really? He's batting 160 for the Brewers? Wow. Well, he's one of those types of hitters, Barbara. We know Hoskins' deal. He's not going to start hitting until it's 85 degrees out. Would you switch Bohm with Stott in the lineup? Okay, well, let me take a look at that real quick. Would I switch Bohm for Stott in the lineup? No. Nope. No. I'm not doing that again either. Again, Joe, this is a problem with this lineup. It's not like and it's not lefty versus righty either. The problem with this lineup is it's never been properly balanced. We got a whole bunch of like 7 hitters. We got a whole bunch of guys who belong down the bottom of the lineup, but because we can't all put them down at the bottom of the lineup, you got to put people up in the lineup. No, I don't put Bohm up in there, or not Bohm. I don't move. Stott belongs down in that bottom part of the lineup. That's where he belongs. It's where he's always belonged ever since his second year in the league, until proven otherwise. And I need to see more from Stott. And yet, it's been a positive start to the season for him. But I need to see a lot more before I push him back up. And I'm never going to bat him 5th. Is that where Bohm's at right now, Ray? He's batting 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, he's batting 1, 2, 3. He's batting 4th. Are you crazy? No, I'm not putting Stott up there. No, I'm not batting Stott 4, 5, or 6. It's a stretch to move him into the 7th hole for me. I would be amicable to do that, but I'm not raising him up into the 4, 5, and 6. No, absolutely not. And that's the problem with this lineup. We don't have balance. Mr. Miyagi would be turning over in his grave right now if he was looking at the Phillies lineup. There's no balance, nothing. We don't have balance, and I don't know what to do with the lineup. Honestly, I really don't. And I don't know. You know what? Here's something stupid. Try Bohm in the 2 hole, like we've been kind of saying forever. Why not? Let's put Bohm up in the 2 hole. Let's just try it up there. Maybe that'd be better for him. But putting him down, and he's batting cleanup for some odd reason, and that doesn't make any sense. Move him up to the 2 hole, Harper to 3, Schwarber to 4. Let's do that for a while. Let's see if that works. But with Bohm, she probably did. Women. Last check, the Phillies lineup led MLB in strikeouts. Yes, and after tonight, so they were actually doing pretty good with that, Barbara. They struck out those 19 times on opening day. Then they only had struck out in double digits once since then, and that was on Sunday against the Dodgers. Well, tonight they struck out 14 more times. So coming out of tonight's game, they've now struck out 95 times as a team in 2025. And that averages about a little bit over 8.5 a game. So yeah, that's back up on the rise. But I was actually kind of happy the way they kind of mitigated the strikeouts after opening day. I thought they were doing pretty good with that, but lately it's been spiking again, and just really poor plate approaches. Everyone's saying, well, you got to take pitches. Yeah, you got to take pitches, but that's not like SOP. You don't got to get up there and never swing at the first pitch. They're just terrible at situational hitting. They're terrible at understanding what pitch is going to be thrown. They're just really bad at it. And that's up and down the lineup. That's just not Bohm. That's everybody. And I blame Kevin Long for that. Bohm, Stott, and Marsh are bad. Just bring up Crawford, center fielder, Miller, third, and Sosa, second. No, Michael, come on. I'm going to do one better for you. Miller is not ready. Miller is going to be in Reading for most of this year. And if you're lucky, Miller will show up at Lehigh Valley sometime after the All-Star break and finish out his time with the Iron Pigs this year. More likely, Miller's going to finish a complete season in Reading. He's going to do the whole season down there and then maybe start next year in Lehigh Valley. The player you want to look at is Otto Kemp, who's currently the third baseman for the Iron Pigs. He's another guy that's been flying somewhat under the radar. I believe he's the 11th ranked player in the Phillies minor league system. He's rocketed up the minors. I only think this is his third year as a pro. He's killing it down in Lehigh Valley right now. That's the guy that I'd make a move with Bohm on. I would bring him up, put him at third, bring Crawford up and play him at center. But the question now goes, are we going too deep into the well with the minor leagues? And I said this before the season began. I did think that a prospect or two would be greatly involved in the success or failure of this team in 2025. A player that's not currently on this team right now, when it's all said and done with this year, was going to be somewhat involved in their success and failure. And right now, the two prospects that are looming the largest, and you could possibly throw Gabe Racones Jr. in there too, the outfielder. He could potentially be here at some point. But Otto Kemp and Justin Crawford. Remember the name Otto Kemp. Remember that name. I think he'll be here before Miller is. The Braves always brought up young guys. What are the reasons? No, absolutely. I mean, I hear you, and I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying it's a leap of faith. But if it ain't working with what you got, and I just went on a tirade about blaming Dave Dombrowski for not addressing third base, not addressing center field, and maybe the plan was addressed, and it was the players we just talked about. It's Crawford in center and Kemp in third. Maybe that was the plan. But you're right. We can't keep doing this if it's not working. Something's got to give. You lose time if you don't play well, right? Alec Bohm has been on and everyone, I heard this today. You got to give Alec Bohm time. He's slumping the start of the season. This is not a start of the season slump. He's been slumping since mid-July. This is just a carryover. I'm done with Bohm, man. And we screwed up by not getting rid of him. Hell, I would have traded him at the damn All-Star break. I would have traded him at the All-Star break. I mean, obviously his value will never be any higher like that again, but I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Zach Gallen struck out 13 against the Phillies, and then the reliever struck out 7 more, 20 Ks against the D-backs. We're talking about Zach Gallen struck out 13 against the Phillies, and then the reliever struck out 7 more, 20 strikeouts against the D-backs. We haven't played the D-backs this year, Barbara. What are you talking about? I'm talking about in the playoffs a couple years ago. We haven't played Arizona yet. Walker has a better ERA than Nola. He does, and he labored tonight. 93 pitches through 4.5 innings is not clean, and he was giving up hits, but he was getting out of them. And I thought the right move was to remove him at that time because the hits would start turning into runs, and they saved him. Now the bullpen, which leads me to my final point about that wasn't addressed properly. Well, let's see this. If Kemp is the third baseman, can Miller play second base he is a shortstop. So yeah, he was drafted. Actually, came up playing. He's a natural third baseman, Miller. And the Phillies have converted him over to shortstop. He's taking the majority of his reps in Reading this year as a shortstop. I don't think he's played second base at all. And the thing with Miller is, Mike, Miller's in Double-A. I'm talking about 2 AAA guys, Crawford and Kemp. Those guys are in AAA. Miller's not. I don't think Miller's coming this year. I really don't, unless he starts like rocketing the cover off the ball. Now, he was my position player of the week last week in our first week of the Down on the Phillies farm segment. He had a pretty damn good opening week, but listen, I think Miller, if things go really well, Miller ends the season in Lehigh Valley, and then we talk next year at camp about him maybe making the team out of camp. But more than likely, 2 things will happen. He'll have a great season, get a midseason call up to AAA, finish the season in Lehigh, get meaningful reps with the Phillies this spring in 26, start the year in AAA, and go from there. Or he plays the entire season in AA this year and then gets promoted right to AAA next season to start 26. I don't see Aiden Miller wearing Phillies pinstripes in 2026 or 2025. I just don't think he's ready. He's too young. Kemp, Crawford, Gabriel Cones Jr. Yeah, I could see them wearing pinstripes this year, and they may be. All of them may be at one point. Sorry, mistake. Disregarded. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Zach Gallen and the Diamondbacks. Damn, Barbara. Yeah, I know it's late. I'm aware of that. Wow. But so let's go to the bullpen now. And the bullpen. Well, look, first and foremost, I wasn't a Hoffman guy. All right. So I wasn't really shedding a tear when they let him go. I really wasn't. But I was not doing back springs when they picked up Romano, who was dealing with an injury that cut his season short. I wasn't doing backflips when they picked up Ross, who was also coming off injuries. But to me, the bullpen has always hinged on 2 players. It's Alvarado and Kerkering for me. That's the 2 players in the Phillies bullpen that mean the most to me heading into this season. Alvarado needs to take steps and Kerkering needs to take steps this year in order to solidify what's going on out there. But the problem is, when I say Kerkering and Alvarado to me are the only 2 players that really mean anything in that bullpen, that's with me using the bullpen with roles thing, right? And I got to keep pulling myself back in because we don't use roles in this team. That's why Joe Ross is out there in the 7th friggin' inning when he's a spot starter long reliever, but yet he's pitching in the 7th inning for Rob Thompson. So we can blame the bullpen for struggling. And yeah, we should. Romano's been a bust, and Romano is a late inning guy, and he's not played well, and I don't know how much longer the Phillies are going to, he hasn't been out there since the Dodger series. So I get that. And that looks like that it didn't work out because he's coming off of an injury, but again, Dave Dombrowski bought cheap damaged goods and hoping to roll the dice and have some things work out. And so far it hasn't. But Joe Ross's use tonight in the 7th inning made no sense to me. Matter of fact, I posted about it on Twitter. Go to the It's a Wrap Sports page on Twitter. He's a long reliever and a spot starter, and he gives up a home run in the 7th inning. What do you expect? What was he doing out there? So we could have Mariano Rivera, Josh Hader, Trevor Hoffman, Dennis Eckersley, and John Smoltz at the end of his career when he was a closer. We could have all 5 of them in our bullpen, and Rob Thompson would find a way to screw it up by putting somebody in the wrong spot. So to me, it's hard for me to sit here and judge the talent of our bullpen when we have a megalomaniac at the helm who doesn't know how to assign roles. And I don't know if it's that simple, and if I'm putting too much on Rob here and not enough responsibility on the pitchers. But as a manager, that's your job, to assess this guy's better here, this guy's better there, this guy's better here. Not necessarily this guy's better in this situation or this guy's better in that situation. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's you are better or more equipped by your natural gifts to pitch in the 7th or 8th inning. You are better or more gifted through your natural gifts and experience to be my long reliever and to eat up innings when my starter can't get out of the 3rd inning. Baseball's been played like that since the dawn of time. But Rob Thompson thinks he can kind of change all that by using analytics and situations to govern his use of his bullpen. And it's not worked consistently since he's been the manager here. So I'm saving opinion for the bullpen people, because I am not sure where the problem with them starts and the problem with Rob Thompson ends. So I still believe and maintain we have quality bullpen arms. They're just not being used correctly, with maybe the exception of Romano. And until we get a new voice down there to say, this guy's this guy, this guy's that guy, and this guy's this guy, then I don't think it's going to happen. You know what I mean? I'm just really concerned about that. Oh, man. Philly radio and TV is dissing the Dodgers for their White House visit, but the Eagles are celebrated. Yeah, I'm not even going to get into that, Barbara. That's such hypocritical crap. Thompson doesn't believe in bullpen roles. He's such a nut. Absolutely. No, Michael Harris of the Braves was never played in AAA Gwinnett Stripers as he began his 20s. Okay, did I discredit Michael Harris Jr.'s rise to the major leagues? Friggin' Johan Rojas never played in AAA either until last year when they sent him down. He went right from AA to the majors. I get you. Listen, Michael, it's all about what the player is ready to do. Okay? It's all about the player. I don't think Aiden Miller's ready. I don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's ready. Aiden Miller is 20 and Michael Harris 21. Also, Aiden Miller was drafted after his third year of college, and I think Michael Harris came out after his second year. So, listen, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'm not discrediting that younger players can't come up, and they're not discriminated by their age. It's discriminated by whether or not they can play at the level that these teams want them to play at. And I honestly have not watched that much Aiden Miller, and it's hard for me to sit here and tell you how Aiden Miller is going to react to Spencer Strider, or how Aiden Miller is going to react to Ohtani when he starts pitching again. I can't sit here and tell you that. But what I can tell you is he's played 5 games in AA. That's his highest level that he's played at right now. Yeah, he's a former first-round pick. Absolutely. But for some reason, they don't feel he's ready. And I happen to kind of agree at this point of time. And with Aiden Miller, he'll be there. You know, I don't see a rush with Aiden Miller. I'm telling you, look into this Otto Kemp guy. Look into him. He's nothing to shake a stick at. Got a real cheesy mustache, but nothing really to shake a stick at. No, Matty Thompson is not a good baseball manager. He's just a caretaker, babysitter. Yeah, he is. Michael Harris has been in the majors. Again, Bryce Harper spent a cup of coffee in the minor leagues. I mean, he went through like 3 different levels of minor league baseball in 4 months. All right, I get you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but this is, to me, it's got nothing to do with age. It's got everything to do with skill. All right? I don't care if he's 19. If he can come up here and rake at 19, get him up here. But he obviously can't. Phillies tend to overrate their young players. Yeah. So is everybody, though. Right, Barbara? Nick Abel. Don't even get me started there. Yeah, Nick Abel, 6 year in the minors. I agree. But obviously, they saw something in his ability and his velocity, his control. He did have a lot of control issues. He still does. Still gets that ball up there. But the one thing about Nick Abel is, man, he picks up that ball every 5th day, and he pitches deep into every game. He gives up a lot of hits, doesn't give up many runs, and strikes out a ton of people. And he pitches deep. And I heard Mike say it on the Fightins final, and I agree. And I've been advocating this forever, since last year. I agree. I don't think there's anything more Mick Abel can prove at AAA. There isn't. And for both Mick Abel's peace of mind and the Phillies' peace of mind, we need to know if he can pitch in Major League Baseball at this point in his experiment. So yeah, it's a win-win for me bringing him up, because either he works out and we found ourselves another arm, or he doesn't work out and we move the hell on. So absolutely, Mike, I agree. He needs to be up here. Scott Kinnerly, something like 8 years in the minors. Well, that was after he came up too early. Remember? Now there you go. I don't want a Aiden Miller, Scott Kingery thing happening. You know, I mean, God damn, that was terrible. But anyway, so the Phillies found a way to win, and it was a key win. So to go back to my original question that I started out this rant on was this a crossroad games for the Phillies? 11 games in. They're now 8-3, right? I mean, by the way you hear people talking, it's like the season's coming down the home stretch and we're at 11 games in. But I'm going to lend credence to it because, yes, I thought tonight was a crossroads game. Maybe not for the season, but for the series, obviously. And I saw more positives tonight than I did negatives. I saw a team that continued to fight back, and I saw a team that got contributions from players that were paying money to have their contributions from. Now, there are some glaring issues, and I mentioned 3 of them on this program tonight. And it's frustrating because those glaring issues are not new. They're not something that just popped up this week. We knew about them coming into the offseason. We knew about them going into the offseason and going into the season that these areas were not addressed. So whether or not the solutions for these problems are in the minor leagues, and that was what the plan was all along, or if Dave Dombrowski believed in Alec Bohm to be able to bounce back, believed in a platoon situation of Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas actually working, and believing that he could go and buy cheap damaged goods and make a bullpen out of it, all remains to be seen. But there's something to a team that has these glaring issues now over a course of the next, 151 games are probably going to have to be addressed, because at some point we're not going to be able to win on our looks. We're going to have to actually play good baseball. So, Mike, I know your frustration about bringing young players up here and seeing what they can do. It's validated. It's correct. I agree, especially when we've been left with no other choice because we didn't go out and address it in the offseason. But the question is, when do we do that? And the question is, at what point do you pull the plug on Alec Bohm, pull the plug on Brandon Marsh, and then potentially pull the plug on the bullpen? And can you get away with doing that? You know, these are the problems that the general manager and the manager are going to have to figure out. But they're valid points, all valid points, 100% valid points. Not a crossroads. The Braves are a downtrodden, depleted team that started a minor league pitcher. It's no big deal beating them. Look at the Nationals; they almost swept the Dodgers. Yeah. And Barbara, I meant more like a crossroads, not necessarily in. And I think I meant it based on that point right there, is that the Braves are kind of a downtrodden team, but yet the Phillies went out last night and found a way to choke out a 7-5 loss. And in the stupidest way possible, right? With the Rojas play. So, and then not getting a hit after the 5th inning. So I thought it was more geared towards, was today a crossroads game based on what that game was. You know what I mean? So winning the game tonight, I think, goes a long way into kind of keeping people from jumping off the bridge a little bit. Because of the points that you mentioned about the Braves being depleted. And the Braves are not done. The Braves will be back. We have not seen the last of the Braves. And tomorrow's going to be a good game. Tomorrow's going to be like maybe one of the better games. If you're a fan of pitching, tomorrow's the game for you. Jesus Luzardo against Schwallenbach. That's going to be a good game. And you think Alec Bohm is struggling now. Let's see what he does tomorrow. And yeah, I'll bet my bottom dollar that he's back in the lineup tomorrow night. There ain't no way he's getting sat. It doesn't happen on this team, man. But good points. What's Stott doing right now? Nothing. Bohm doing nothing right now. Marsh doing nothing right now. Stott was 2 for 4 tonight, and also was involved in that play with Kepler, wasn't he? Wasn't he the one who rounded out the second there? And I know he got thrown out, but still, I mean, he put the ball in play and made it a difficult play. Listen, I got you. I would get rid of all 3 of them if I could right now too. All 3 of them have not worked. And we can thankfully stop comparing Stott to Chase Utley, because that is so totally not a comparison that's legitimate anymore. We can't retrade Marsh for O'Hoppe, which I would love to. And we should have moved Bohm last offseason when we had the chance, or during the trade deadline when we had the chance. I got it. You're 100%, Mike. But the question is, now that we're in the position we're in, how do you navigate from here. And you mentioned the only other option here is to go bring up some young players, but there's a roll of the dice right there too. I mean, is Otto Kemp ready to play third? I think he might. Is Justin Crawford ready to play center? I think out of all the players that we're talking about, he's probably the more ready, major league ready. But we can protect Crawford in the lineup. I don't know if I can protect Kemp. He may have to go in at 6 or 7. But we're going to have to wait and see how these things sort of bounce out. I'm not telling you that I would be mad to see Otto Kemp playing third base, Justin Crawford in center field by Mother's Day. I'm not saying that. And then Mick Abel coming out of the bullpen. No, I'm not saying that, because at some point, these players got to play. At some point, you got to get some results from these kids. 100% agree. 100% agree. But do the Phillies see it the same way? Because I mean, I don't make no decisions down there. At least I don't think I do. I don't think they listen to me. They might. If you listen to me, how you guys doing? But Crossroads game, maybe not. But I think more philosophically, it was a Crossroads game for me. I wanted to see them, how they were going to come back after losing that game the way they did last night. And honestly, with all the adversity they faced again tonight, Alec Boehm not doing anything at all, Brandon Marsh not doing anything at all, as Michael mentioned. The bullpen, Rob Thompson, they're throwing dice against the wall, saying, okay, if I get a 5, I'm throwing Joe Ross out there, all that, and it still worked. And it worked because of 2 players who get a lot of criticism, deservedly so, came up huge tonight, Bryce Harper and Trey Turner. But that's not going to be enough to carry us to a World Series. And I agree with you. And the Phillies have put themselves in a vicarious spot. And now what do you do going forward? So it's going to be fun to see. And I love this about baseball. They should just cut March at this point, keep exploring trades for Boehm, and hope that Stott improves majorly, which is a high hope. Really, he is what he is. Yeah, I don't listen, Barbara. You're right. Stott is he's a major league player, right? But he's not a focal point of a team. And if he's looked at in your lineup as a focal point, and I mean by that is like in the 5th, 4th, or 6th position in your lineup, then you're wrong, because he's not that guy. He is a 7, 8, 9 guy. He is. Absolutely. But he belongs in the majors, and his defense is well above average. Listen, Stott is the least of my problems, Barbara. He is. I'm being honest. When I look at center field situation, and I look at third base, and I look at the bullpen, Stott is the least of my problems right now. We don't have enough time to address all those problems in season. You got to prioritize. And right now, I'm prioritizing center field, bullpen, third base. Has got to be in my opinion, how it needs to be worked out. I can't go much longer watching Rojas and Marsh play center field. I can't go much longer, and I don't know if the bullpen can last much longer if you don't assign them roles. And again, Barbara, I preference this by saying I don't know what we have in the bullpen. We may have the right people, they're just not being used correctly. And I think that's a valid point to say, because we don't know how these guys are reacting, because every single day they're coming into a whole new different situation. And am I the only one who sees a problem with that? Because I don't understand why they're still doing it. But I think we have the right people. We're just not using them correctly. And then Boehm is the other situation on third base. So, yeah, valid points that were not addressed in the offseason that have now reared their ugly head. The Braves pitcher tomorrow was promoted to the AAA, but never pitched, was called right up to the mid. Yeah, so did Rojas. Michael, I'm telling you, I know it happens, man. Rojas said the same thing. Never pitched, never played one game in AAA, and was sent to the Phillies. Then went back to AAA last year because he stunk. Listen, Schwalbach developed faster than those guys did. I don't know what you want from me, man. I don't know what you want. I love Mason Miller from Oakland here. I think at Bowman Ross. Joe, you're crazy. Thank God you're not a baseball GM. So the A's, and by the way, they're not Oakland anymore. Joe, we got to be careful here. They're not the Oakland A's. They're just the A's. They don't have a city affiliation. If they traded Mason Miller to the Phillies for Boehm and Rojas, the city of Vegas would tear down the stadium, tear up their agreement for them coming there, and then the A's would be stuck playing in Sacramento for the rest of their lives. I mean, there's no way in God's green earth that the A's would agree to that trade. Absolutely no. That is never going to happen. I agree, Hun. Is a mess bullpen as defined. I agree, Hun. Outfield is a mess. Bullpen has to have defined roles. Yeah. The organization is a joke with their minor leaguers. This is why the Phillies have to go out and sign stars all the time. Just think about the Bowman Stott are the only starters outside of the pitchers that were in our minor leagues. It's sad. Now, listen, is that true? First base Harper, yeah. Second base Stott, shortstop Turner, third base Bowman, center field Rojas. I mean, do you consider Rojas a starter? I mean, he is kind of a starter. He's a platoon guy. Left field is Castellanos and right field is Kepler. No, you're right. Starting rotation. Well, no. Starting rotation's got Nola. He's a minor leaguer. Wheeler, no. Luzardo, no. Sanchez is a minor leaguer. And Walker, no. Bullpen's got Kirkering and Ruiz. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. Bohm has low trade value. That's the problem where you would have. Yeah. No, I disagree, Barbara. No, I don't. I disagree. He's got low trade value now, but I think they could have moved him this offseason. But I think the Phillies' expectations of him were higher. I think there was fair trades, and I would love to know some of the offers that they turned down. But allegedly they had offers that they turned down. But his highest value would have been at the trade deadline or at the All-Star break last year. Then you probably could have still moved him for decent value at the trade deadline. Then in the offseason, yeah, his value took a hit. But I think he still had value in the offseason because teams probably looked at him like, you know what, we can do something with that. But now, you're right. Now you couldn't get rid of him for whatever. But we'll see. We'll see what the Phillies do tomorrow night, 7:30. And by the way, you heard me right, 7:30. Apparently there's parking problems in Truist Park. Now, the logistics of the stadium, it's not in Atlanta. It's in Smyrna, which is right outside of Atlanta. But apparently there's parking issues. I don't know if it's issues at the stadium, issues getting to the stadium, but that's the reason why all Braves games are at 7:30, is so that the area can lighten up or they can get people out of there to get people in there. Where everybody else is doing 6:30 night start times, all the Atlanta Brave home games are at 7:30 because of their parking issues in Smyrna and at Truist. Interesting. So 7:30 tomorrow, the Phillies will go out and try to finish off the Braves for their 4th series win of the season, and maybe go 9-3 and get ready to go off to St. Louis and should handle the Cardinals. But we'll see. Tomorrow it's Schwellenbach against Luzardo. So with Walker pitching the way he is, do you put Ranger in the bullpen? So one step at a time. Ranger's going to pitch tomorrow, right, Joe? He's pitching down in Clearwater tomorrow. Then on Friday, Painter is pitching in Clearwater as well. So, by the way, Joe reported this yesterday that the Phillies will televise Andrew Painter's start on Friday, a 6:30 start against Daytona, which is the Reds Low A affiliate, on Friday afternoon or evening at 6:30. The Phillies will televise that game on their website. So make sure you guys are checking that out. And Rangers pitching tomorrow at 6:30 against Daytona, not televised by the Phillies. You take it one step at a time. I think Ranger works his way back, and then you kind of, I don't know what you do. I think you give Ranger more than one start. I think you got to give him at least 2 or 3 or 4, and maybe push him up the minors. Like he'll start with Clearwater this week, maybe next week on his next rotation, he starts for Reading or he starts for Lakewood Jersey Shore. And then does another start 5 days later for Reading, and then another start 5 days later for Lehigh Valley. I think you work him up like that. You kind of ease him back into this. Don't forget, his spring training was interrupted. He really didn't get a full spring training. Didn't really see much live pitching, or live hitting, I should say. So I think you got to work him up through the system like that. And I think by that point, if Walker is still pitching serviceably, then you have a decision to make right now. But right now, I don't think a decision is incoming, because I don't think Rangers anywhere near coming back to the Phillies. I think he goes and they basically take him, level by level every 5 days and give him a start and see how he goes from there. So, but to answer your question, if he's pitching, if Suarez can work his way back up here quickly, no, I think you put him back in the rotation. And I think you move Walker to the bullpen. Because what Walker can do, and he's proven this over his entire career, to include even last year, he's okay one time through the lineup. And he's got high velocity. He is a back end of the bullpen kind of pitcher, like a Brett Myers type of converted starter type thing. You know what I mean? And I really believe that he could definitely help you out in the 7th and 8th inning or 9th inning. And again, I'm using the Rob Thompson bullpen without roll model here by saying that he's not a closer, but he's definitely a back end bullpen guy. So I think if all works out well, Rangers back in the rotation and you move Walker to the bullpen. I think that would be the way you do it. 7:30 or 7:15 is fine. I really don't like the 6:30 starts. I don't like them either. They're too early. What is the actual injury? Back issue, right? It's the same problem he had last year, but a lesser version of that problem. So it's his back. I don't know the official designation, but it's a back problem. It's the same injury that sidelined him last year, but not as severe, is what they said. But okay, let's get into the of the night segment as we talked almost an hour about the Phillies, man. Oh, I didn't even talk about the Flyers, man. 8-5 winners tonight. Let's do that real quick. 8-5 winners tonight, Flyers. Under Bradshaw, this team has somehow amassed a 4-1 record, 8 points in 5 games under Bradshaw. They're 30% effective on the power play, 4 for 13. They've scored 25 goals in those 5 games, averaging 5 goals a game. They've given up 17 goals, about 3.5. That's still a problem. But what the hell, man? I mean, I know they're beating up on some lesser talent. Oh, and yeah, by the way, they've killed off 9 of 10 penalties for 90% on the penalty kill. So the Flyers are looking like they got life at the wrong time of the year. And they battled tonight. Obviously, the Rangers are not the team that they were last year. And as Joe was saying, they knocked the Rangers out of the playoffs. And yeah, I mean they're Tyson Forrester with his 20th goal of the year, which is really good to see. He kind of emerged this season. Again, the one positive you can pull from this year is that they found a third line that they can go forward with, but I don't think Brink is on that line. I think you put Couturier and you center Couturier with Cates and Forrester. You move Brink down to the 4th line. I think that's the line going forward. That's what I would do. But that's the positive. And then for those of you that weren't a John Tortorella fans, obviously the positive was he got fired. But Flyers finding ways to win, which is amazing at this stage of the season. And they're scoring goals. They're playing loose. They're playing free. I don't think they're playing much defense. I don't really think they are, but still definitely fun to watch. But 8-5 winners tonight over the Rangers. And, of course, we stopped doing the fight and spot or clear the ice. We'll be back next year, though. But yeah, Flyers win 8-5, and they continue to battle their way out of a top 5 draft pick. But let's hope they don't win much more. I want to see them get into. I want that draft to be as good as it can be. Flyers basically, yes, they did. Yeah, and man, what happened to the Rangers this year, man? Weren't they the President Trophy winners last year? Didn't they win that last year? I mean, they were a good team last year. But all right, let's hit on to the of the night segment here on the program. That's right. Time for the of the night segment. And speaking of the NHL draft, which we will be covering here on this network in July, have not decided how we're going to do it. I don't know if we're actually going to do a watch thing or if we're going to just post updates about it. We're still working that out. We're going to do the NFL draft too, but that's going to be through like computer graphics and stuff. We're not going to actually do a watch party, but we're still working out the bugs for the NHL and MLB draft. But we're back in the NHL draft tonight talking about Adam Benak, a centerman from the University of from Youngstown in the NCAA, And you're not seeing this wrong. 5'8", 157 pounds. I don't know, man. It's like childlike. He's got jump and straight line speed. He's got slick hands and feel on the puck. It can feel because of his anticipation, smarts, and skating. Like he consistently one step ahead of the game when he's playing against his peers and while playing against his peers. And while he's still small, which is childlike, he was listed at 5'7". His Czech team listed him at 5'10" last year. And I was told last week he's actually 5'8.5". He defends really well. So there's some dispersions about this kid. He is from Czechoslovakia, so he's played all of his life minus this year on European ice. But he played in Youngstown this season, and he did well. But it's the size, the 5'8", or they're saying 5'10", and someone's telling me it's 5'7" or 5'8.5". So I'm concerned with the height and the weight disparity, but he's definitely got the build of a, please don't take this the wrong way, but he reminds me a lot of a Martin St. Louis or a Danny Briere type of player. He's fast. He does not hesitate. He's fearless, and he can move and he can shoot, and he makes a lot of good decisions off the puck and on the puck. The problem is durability with this kid. Can he hold up in the NHL? And again, I'm not really concerned about the height. But the 157, I mean, come on, dude. I mean, I was like 157 pounds in high school, and I mean, I get it. This kid's probably not that far out of that stage of his life, but mid first round pick with some project ahead of him. He is not a day one guy from the NHL this year. He'll be in someone's system, but actually he'll probably be in college again next year and probably look to maybe make the jump pro 26 or 27. But a mid-round pick, 15, 16, 17, I can definitely see Adam Benek being available. And he's one of those positions of need, baby. That's right. He's a center. And he would work well on a lower line for the Flyers. We're looking for a number 2 centerman as well. Don't forget, we need a 1C and a 2C. So I wouldn't be upset to see a player like this as our center 2 of the future. Or potentially Jetlachenko, but whatever. But there you go. Tonight's NHL draft prospect, Adam Benek, of the night segment. Hope you guys enjoyed that. As we're getting deeper into this, and Barbara says he's almost my height. Well, again, Barbara, it's so his Czech team reported him at 5'10". Youngstown saying is 5'7", or was it 5'8" or 5'7"? What was the college one again? His college team is saying he's 5'8", and then I was told by somebody that's in the know that he was 5'8.5". So I don't know what you go by. I guess we can split the difference, put him at 5'9", but that's small. It is, but he can play. Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of tape on him. He can play, but he plays. But all the tape I've seen on him was on European ice. So how that translates to North American ice, that's always a concern. It translated okay at the NCAA level this year, but I need to see more. But Adam Benek is your NHL draft prospect of the night from the of the night segment. So about mid first round, 13, 14, maybe 15, in that area. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go. But all right, let's get on to the new segment that we started last night, and that's MattyB's all-time MLB jersey segment. That's right. Kind of falling off of the Phillies roster, all-time Phillies roster, and the all-time Flyer roster that I did earlier this year, we started talking about what are my favorite jerseys, MLB jerseys of all time. Yesterday we did the AL West, and today we're going to do the AL Central. I'll recap the AL West here first before we start Central, but remember the rules here. I take a home and away jersey from a team, and it doesn't have to be the matching jerseys. Like, it doesn't have to be the jerseys the team wore in 1990. It could be their home jersey in 1990 and their road jersey in 1950. But whatever I think is the best look that these teams have had over the years, my personal best looks. And that's sort of the gauge. So let's kind of have some fun with this. Again, we did the AL West last night. We will, Matty, you're a hockey maven. Thank you very much, Barbara. Phantoms made the call. Did they really? They were what, the 5th seed, 6th seed going in? I'll be keeping an eye on that, Joe. Matter of fact, if you've never been to Phantoms playoff hockey, I highly recommend it. It's fun. But let's go into this. So let's recap the AL West. So from last night, this is what I went with. I went with the 80s Angels home and away jerseys. Now, sometimes they do correlate because I just thought that these looks were the best that they've ever had. Again, I'm not advocating my love for the Anaheim Angels. It's just that I thought in history, when they wore these jerseys in the 80s, they were the best look for the team in all time. And the guy that came up with the concept of wrapping a halo around the A, I mean, that guy's a genius. He's a super genius. For the Oakland A's, I went with their 72 homes and their early 80 road jerseys. I thought these, out of all the jersey combinations the A's have had over their time, these to me were the most iconic. Absolutely. Reggie Jackson in that green. I mean, I can see it in my mind. I know a lot of people might go with the handwritten Oakland from the late 80s. But I just like the way these jerseys look. I like the colors. I've always have. Seattle, I went with their home jerseys from the early 80s, and I went with their road jerseys from the mid 80s. The M Trident, again, if it's the same guy that wrapped the halo around the A, he deserves $1 million too, because I think that is an awesome logo design. And then the Seattle, pretty basic stuff, but it just works for me. It works for me. It's in that kind of nautical thing. I don't like what they did in the 90s, and I don't like what they're doing today, but these to me are uniforms that I love. They should go back to those home uniforms, that home jersey design. It's classic, man. Texas Rangers of the early 80s road jerseys, which is the powder blue. There's going to be a couple powder blues. I'm not a big fan of powder blues, but this was powder blue. And then the Ranger jerseys of the home jerseys of the early 80s as well. This is a model from a player from last year because they've gone back to their old home jerseys as a retro jersey as well. So, and then wrapping up the AL West, the Astros road jerseys of the early 80s and their home jersey, and not their home, but their City Connect jerseys of 2025. That's an awesome looking jersey up there. The Altuve one, that's an awesome looking jersey. Again, a team that hasn't had, in my opinion, real good luck with logos and designs and color schemes. To me, these are the two best that the Astros have come up with in their history. So that's my AL West. Now let's get into I like the pitchfork. Yeah, it's the Trident, like what Neptune used to have, the King of the Sea. I mean, it just makes sense. And that was their early 80s look. Now, that uniform also and that logo, unfortunately for Mariners fans, represents a period of terrible baseball in Seattle Mariner baseball history, but still, it's classic, man, and it works. All right, let's switch now to the AL Central tonight. So here we go. The American League Central will start off with the Detroit Tigers, and again, kind of going with a uniform style that fit. I'm going with the early 80 home and road jerseys, okay? Nothing to me says my childhood more than these looks. That D, the top home jersey, that's old school baseball in its purest. I don't even think they've ever switched these uniforms. I think these have been their home design uniforms since the dawn of time. I know they've played around with the road jerseys where they have the handwritten Detroit on it, but the block letter Detroit across the front is the best that they've ever looked. And it's just hands down. It just looks better, looks more classic, looks more baseball to me. Moving on to the Chicago White Sox. This was a tough one for me because they've had so many different patterns and colors and schemes throughout the years. I went with the 1976 home jerseys, which is the white and black one, right? And I went for it for two reasons. One, because of what, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the White Sox back then were going through some sort of like nostalgia with old school baseball, like turn of the 20th century look, the way the teams used to look. Pirates did the same thing with the pillbox hats, right? But the Cubs or the White Sox were doing the same thing. And these jerseys, these home jerseys, why I like them so much is because of those butterfly collars, man. It's pure genius to blend old school baseball look with the 70s. I mean, come on, man. It's god awful. I agree with you, but it gets an A for friggin' originality. And you know what? Anytime you can work a butterfly collar into a baseball uniform and it works, man, I'm going with it. To me, that's just a classic look of the Chicago White Sox of my youth, that home jersey. And don't forget, for those of you that are really up on your knowledge of the Chicago White Sox, they wore those jerseys with shorts. That's right. They wore shorts for 1 year with those jerseys at home. So I am going with the 1976 butterfly collared Chicago White Sox home jerseys as my favorite White Sox. And then the bottom one is their 1990, early 90s road uniforms. I like the way the Chicago is written on these. Again, classic dark black. Nothing busy about this uniform. Very, very to the point. It says Chicago, handwritten. I like the way the C is. They wear that C design on their hats and their helmets. I just like that. I like the way it looked. There was no lines, no borders, no piping, just Chicago, your name and number on the back. And I just like it. And so there's my all-time favorite Chicago White Sox road jersey. Moving on to the Twins, we go in with the early 80s Twins road uniforms and their current home uniforms. Always a big fan of what Minnesota was doing back in the early 80s. Again, these uniforms represent a period of drecky baseball in Minnesota Twin history. But if it works, why get rid of it? And they played around with so many different types of logos and schemes throughout the years. They went with the pinstripes and the Twins, the big T and all that during their World Series years of the 80s and 90s. But to me, those powder blues with the Twins written sideways or kind of horizontal, I guess, on their chest just works for me, man. And then this year, that's their home jersey. So I like it. I've always liked that Twins uniform. Reminds me of Kent Herbeck when I see it. So I'm going with those, the 80s road Twin jerseys and this year's 2025 home Twins jerseys as the best my all-time favorite Twins jerseys. And then on to the Royals. This is a team that has made, I think, logo changes, 2 in the history of their organization. Back in the day, they took their powder blue and they just had Kansas City written on the front, like 1980, like Phillies World Series time. Well, they switched the Royals to Royals back in like 83 or so. And they basically had the same look. Now they moved their powder blues to grays on the road, but it's been really the same look throughout the history of the team. So I really was limited at what I could do with this. So I went with the home jerseys that have been the same since the dawn of time. And instead of going with the block Kansas City road jerseys, I went with the Royals handwritten ones. So pretty easy one. No frill Kansas City Royal uniforms. There's not been much change to it. I could have went with the they did a gray Kansas City road uniform at one point, but that's really it. There hasn't been many changes to it. And for the Guardians, I don't like anything about the Guardians uniforms, so I'm going with the Indians. I'm sorry, and I'm going to go with the early '80s road jerseys, and I'm going to go with the '90s home jerseys. To me, I love those '80s road jerseys, those red ones. I remember them vividly. They had awesome uniforms, and that might be one of my all-time favorite jerseys of all time. Is the red early '80s Cleveland Indian road jerseys. Then, of course, the Major League era of their home jerseys, with Chief Wahoo there on the sleeve. So I'm not going Guardians because I don't recognize it, and their uniforms suck anyway. So I went with Indians on that one. So there you go, MattyB's AL Central all-time favorite uniforms. Tomorrow we will finish the American League with the East, and then next week we will jump into the National League. Let's go. I'm still not used to the Astros being in the. Yeah, it's taking some time. I still get tripped up by it. The Tigers ones are a classic love. The Royals powder blues is sweet too. I love the powder blue Twins jerseys, and I'm liking this uniform segment a lot. Thank you, Barbara. So about the powder blues, I hated powder blues growing up when I was a kid, and everybody went with them. It was, not many teams were gray for the road. It was the dominant color was powder blue. But for the Twins and the Royals, it's just always worked, and it made no sense to change it. And I know the Royals did get away from it, and I think they're wearing gray today. I don't think they're wearing powder blues anymore. But the Twins, to me, just were synonymous in the powder blues. And, keeping them in powder blues, again, it reminds me of Kent Herbeck those years. I just see him whenever it's the wrong one. Whenever I see these jerseys, I just think of him. And then whenever I think of the Royals, I can't think of them in gray. I always think of them in powder blue. So, and then the Indians, of course. That Indians jersey is probably one of my all-time favorite ones, this red one here. It's really good stuff. Funny thing about the Astros, and then let's go back to the AL West real quick. So this jersey down here, this was their road jerseys till 1992. Yeah, they were white on the road. They're the only team in baseball history that I've ever known to wear white on the road. And they switched around in 93. They wore their home jerseys on the road, and they wore those at home. And then in 94, they shit-canned the whole thing and went with the black and the pinstripes, which were terrible. But yeah, it's good to kind of go walking around. Now, as we move into the AL East, with the Red Sox and Yankees, it's going to be kind of hard because it's really been one type of thing. I know the Red Sox have had a couple of different pattern changes, but I mean, the Yankees have never changed their uniforms. So, but it's a fun segment. I enjoy it. It's fun. All right, let's wrap it up with my funnest segment of the night. Yep. MattyB's card review. We're going to wrap it up. We've been in baseball all week, and we're going to finish. We're going to stay in baseball. We're staying in. We're going in. No, we've been in early 90s most of the week. We're going into the late 80s tops tonight, and a insert card. So we all know what insert cards are, right? If you don't, I'll explain what an insert is. An insert is a so typically you have a player card. You may have an all-star card. You may have a rookie card. You may have different versions of your card, but an insert is like a special gimmick card. And tonight we're going to go with one that was very popular in Topps from about 1972 started, and it's still popular today. It's the turn back the clock cards. You guys might know these things, right? And you're going to see it in here in a second. But since 72, Topps has done a turn back the clock special insert card where they take a player from a different era and put him in that set, sort of as homage to that player. Mike Schmidt's got one in the later, I think 2020 Topps. Mike Schmidt's got a turn back the clock card. All the baseball legends have these throughout the years, and Topps started doing this in 72 with the turn back the clock. Now, they haven't done it every year. They'll do them for like 5 years at a time, take like 3 years off, do like 5 years at a time, take a couple of years off, kind of do it like that. But in 2025, they are doing turn back the clock in Series 1. I think they did them in 23, 24, and now 25. They did not do them in 22. So tonight we're going to do an 88 Topps turn back the clock card, and it's from an iconic pitcher from way back in the day who was just absolutely straight up dominant. I mean, straight dominant. And that would be Mr. Bob Gibson. And this is his 88 Topps turn back the clock card. As you can see, this card was taking his picture. They're taking his 1968 baseball card and packaging it as a turn back the clock card in 1988's Topps. Now, Gibson, for his career, dominant is not really the word I can pretty much say. Spent his entire career, which spanned 15 years, with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was a 9-time All-Star, a 2-time World Series champion. He was the NL MVP in 68 from that year that card was taken there. 2-time Cy Young Award winner, 2-time World Series MVP, 9-time Gold Glove winner. He led the league and the NL in wins in 1970. He led the league in NL and ML and ERA in 1968. He pitched a no-hitter in 19. The Cardinals. He's in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. He's on the Major League Baseball All-Century team, and he's a 1981 inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. 84% on his first ballot of eligibility. Just dominant. Career 251 and 174 for a sub-3 ERA, 2.91, and over 3,000 strikeouts. in his career. Just a dominant player, definitely worthy of a turn back the clock honor for Bob Gibson, as he is one of the more. I think it's easy to say that he's part of that first generation of like just straight dominant power pitchers, that really kind of were the predecessors to the Nolan Ryans and the Steve Carltons of the 70s and 80s. It was the Gibsons, it was the Koufaxes, it was those guys that kind of laid down the framework for just a straight power guy, a guy that can go just rear back and throw hard and throw a lot. And Gibson was definitely one of that. He passed away. He left us back in 2020 at the age of 84. So, rest in peace to a Hall of Famer, a class act, an all-time Cardinal, and the subject of tonight's MattyB's card review. Now, these turn back the clock cards are pretty basic. They really, there's not really much they can do with this. As you can see in the 88 version, they just put a green back to it. And then if you flip it over, and when I show you the actual card, it's a bio of the year that it's featured. So in this case, it's the 88 set. So we turn back the clock to his 68 set. So his 1968 card, they do 20 years type thing. This card is actually, if you had this card graded at about a 10, it's about a $25 card, but ungraded, raw, like I have it, $2 or $3. But there's tonight's our card review, and here it is, Josh Gibson's turn back the clock card. As you can see, the green border. This is a pretty clean cut card too. I probably have a 9 or 10 here on my hands, but if you flip it over, as you can see here, it's the bio of what happened to him in 1968. So it's just kind of a whole back of the card about what happened to him in 68. So it's a clean, sweet looking card. The 88 tops weren't sexy at all, but this is a nice card. I like to turn back the clocks. You can find some really good players, and you kind of look like, oh yeah, I remember that. So this is the 1988 tops turn back the clock of Bob Gibson on MattyB's card review. And there you have it. Clean, nice card. Dominant pitcher, man. A dominant pitcher. Yeah, my card is set. I'm still doing it, Barbara. I researched Bob Gibson before. He was excellent. Yes, he was. I researched Tom Gibson. He was all, yeah. Again, Tom Seaver is another one of those pitchers, that those power pitchers that dominated the 60s into the 70s, that laid the foundation for how valuable those kind of pitchers can be. So, yeah, kudos to Bob Gibson, man. Had a great career. All right, folks, that is going to do it. Thank you for coming on late, staying up late with me tonight. And we're going to do this again tomorrow, because I'm coming at you at the same time around following the Titans final. And we'll be back hopefully talking about a Phillies series win and whatever else you guys want to talk about. So until we talk again tomorrow, I want to wish you guys a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow.